One of the things about adult learning that I've learned is that there's a real wide variety of perspectives people come from. They come from different varying levels of education and experience, and in engaging a group like that, you have to somehow have a variety of activities and approach the topic material in ways that will both be interesting to the novices, but also in some way add to or refresh the learning of the more experienced people in the group. I think the first thing is that having someone stand up in front of a group and lecture for 3 hours is not very engaging, even though at the same time people often want you to deliver lots of content. The challenge is how can we free them up to start to share what they already know about the topic with their colleagues, and so it comes from the group as much as it comes from the presenters. And then how can we build on what they already know? So finding ways they can interact with each other, finding ways that they can wake up the creative side of their brain and engage that, and have a better experience. Probably the best advice is not new advice, but it's to know your audience before you get there, to know as much as you can about the audience, to know what they already know, to whatever extent you can know that, and to have a sense of what they want to learn about the topic. And we always start off by asking people what they want to learn, but I think it's important to, when you're putting together the materials, have a sense of that. And one of the other things that we've learned over the past year or so is that people really seem to engage with real-life stories that illustrate what we're talking about. And consistently we get feedback, positive feedback, saying that the stories about the real cases were part of the highlight for those people. And I think if you look at learning anything, theory is good, but you want to know how to apply it, and that's the intent behind telling the stories about kids and teens that we've worked with over the years, is bring the theory and the approaches we're talking about to life, and help people to kind of connect it in their own practice too.
Coming up that how important the use of case studies and storytelling is to people, which for me, I have to remember to put those things in, not to be so caught up in content that because I think you really bring it alive when you tell a story. So even when I do a learning event by myself, or when I'm with someone else, but that really changes and enhances the learning, is to bring it alive through stories and case studies and those sorts of things, but also to use other things like not to lecture too long, but to bring, videos and interactive experiences, whether that's discussion in small groups or the larger group, and role plays. And I think all sorts of variety is important. One thing that surprises me is all those stories and how people find them really meaningful and interesting. That it's really not all about getting through content, but to slow it down and make it individual and meaningful. I would say that, first of all, to reflect on your own experience as an adult learner, because, we've all spent parts of our adult life being a learner. And I think to reflect on what was most meaningful, right, what made the difference for us, but also then knowing, the important things, like people can only really take 3 things from your presentation. So don't overload it with content, to slow it down and, hit the highlights of things that are important, and also to allow people to, through story and other things, that to individualize it and to bring it alive for people is important. So don't get stuck in the content so much, because it becomes a heavy slog, and it's not meaningful for people then.
The way that we learn is, as adults, at least the way that I learn, isn't so much through you telling me and me sitting here and writing down. The lecture piece, when I did that in university, was really the only option back then, and somehow we figured out and we passed tests and we got degrees and all of that. But actually, learning material is making it part of yourself and integrating it into the work that you do, and that's just a little bit different. I recently attended a training here at CASA, and it's been several days long. And the person who's doing the training is a really, really good trainer. So she's a good adult facilitator for learning. And the reason she's good, the reason why I'm sitting there not zoned out or not making my grocery list or not doodling or not thinking about a client or something I have to do, is because she is using a variety of sources to engage me in the process. So for instance, she'll have a video clip, and you know, one of the video clips she had was so funny I almost belly laughed. Like it was very, like, I was present. I was not doing my grocery list, but it also engaged my brain in terms of thinking about the concepts that she was trying to get us to think about. And then she would have us go and do exercises. So we would actually do, it wasn't like a game, it was, we were actually putting puzzles together and learning how to communicate. And again, you had to be engaged. You couldn't just stand there and not do anything. And it wasn't threatening, and it was fun. And we walked away with this, I walked away with a sense of really thinking about who I was in that exercise, and thinking about how I communicate and how I could communicate better and ways to do that. And so she would do things like that. And then she would have times where she was, you know, actually presenting content. And you know, sometimes you would take notes or whatever because something was interesting to you or it mattered to the work that you were doing. But then other times it was just a variety of things that she was presenting to us. And so, you know, it kind of makes us sound like it kind of makes me feel like I'm like 2 years old and I need to be, you know, constantly stimulated. It's not like that, but in some ways it kind of is. Where we do have very busy lives, and what we choose to focus on and what we choose to expend energy on kind of has to be relevant, and it has to be, I have to be engaged in the process, or it's kind of a waste of my time.
We've really learned that we need to be well prepared, know our stuff, and be willing to be quite flexible. And really be sure to include our learners in the process.
Yeah.
Have it be an engaging kind of presentation.
Yeah. And be respectful of the knowledge that they bring to the table, and be engaging.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We found that they really enjoyed working in small group activities, as well as having some little experiential things to
try.
do.
Yeah, yeah. Not
And,
always role play.
Yeah,
You
not
said
role
that,
play.
not all
That,
else
yeah, they
like
were quite
that.
adamant about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they like to have the discussions
Yeah.
and small group activities. We've really found that. As a matter of fact, we did a presentation where we took a couple of things out because we felt the levels of this group of learners was even higher, and they requested, they would have liked to have done the exercises and the experientials. So that was good learning for us, that it's really an important part of the presentations. It's really important too, I think, to have our PowerPoint that's kind of got the basics, not too much information and interesting.
Yeah.
But also
With an outline at the beginning, even.
right, to be really clear
Yeah.
about what we're doing, what the goals are, be sure that that we're all on the same page, I
Yeah.
guess. But so I guess in a nutshell, the PowerPoint's important, the experiential is really important, and engaging activities like discussion, like small group, like some little experiential activities.
Right. To be humble as a presenter, and to, you know, acknowledge the other people's expertise that
Yeah.
they're bringing to
Yeah.
the table.
Yeah, and I think that
not
is
to be coming in as an
that's
expert
right.
or just reading straight off the PowerPoints, because that's
That doesn't
never goes over
Yeah,
well.
I think too some case studies, I guess, could be considered experiential as well, where we provide them with cases or information and opportunities to, we've done it as small groups, but it could be small or large, where they talk about the scenario we give them and think about how they would work with it, what they would do or what they would see in the situation we've given them, and allow them to discuss it.
Right.
Bring it
And
back to
and
the-
for them to also bring cases to the table themselves.
That's right, or their own questions or
Yeah.
cases.